Now, welcome to the stage the cast and crew of CBS's hot new hacker drama, Scorpion. Joining that conversation with Fast Company's Chuck Salter are executive producers Scooter Braun, Walter O'Brien, and actor Robert Patrick.
Thank you.
Walter, where do you want to sit? Scooter, where do you want to sit?
Okay, so you guys saw this clip earlier in the day. Now we're gonna solve the mystery of what is this show about superhero nerds saving the world. What is Scorpion? Who is Scorpion? Well, this is your basic boy hacker genius, grows up to be security tech genius, an entrepreneur whose life story becomes a network TV show. In other words, it happens every day in Hollywood. And joining me to tell the story is Walter O'Brien, the real-life Scorpion, in the middle here, Scooter Braun, the executive producer, and Robert Patrick, one of the stars. Walter, I'm going to start with you. This starts with business. This starts with a business problem that you were having. Why did you think that what was the problem, and why did you think that a TV show would solve it?
Well, we work with high IQ individuals and people who spent their life being good at one area, one thing.
And when you say we, this is your company called
the company
Scorpion.
ScorpionComputerServices.com. And we have a lot of trouble trying to harvest those people from the planet and find them all over. We found a couple of thousand, but they're hard to find because an IQ 150 is about 1 in 10,000. So we're looking for a needle in a haystack.
And is that the requirement, the IQ 150 or higher for
Yes.
the company? Okay.
And what we found is, folks just don't read books as much as they used to. And when you do conferences, it's a big time sink to go location to location to try and spread the story. And if you do a movie, it'll last about 6 months with the buzz before and after, and then pretty much you're on home DVD after that. So we said, this is too complex a story to tell in 2 hours, and we want people to really resonate with the issue we've been dealing with, which is often the higher someone's IQ, the lower their EQ. Call it common sense, call it social skills, emotional quotient, whatever you want to call it. And sometimes very smart people and programmers and scientists and engineers, they are their own worst enemy. They can't get out of their own way to work with a team to be more successful. And they see people who aren't as smart as them be far more successful in life.
Right.
That's why the smartest person in most companies is not the best paid person in most companies. And we wanted to break that. So that's where we got together, our team, and figured, okay, why don't we do a TV show and try and keep it on the air for 10 years?
Because you were thinking that just the work we do, the problem solving we do, is interesting enough to sustain a TV show at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of interesting real adventures over the last 25 years. And we've been in stealth mode for a long time. And some of those adventures we're now allowed to talk about because they were under non-disclosures for 3 or 7 years, and they've now expired. So, and we've been in the evening news recently in the last couple of years as well for certain events. So we reached out to Scott Manson, who is the COO over at Scooter Braun's company. Scott knew us and had worked with Scorpion previously, and he said, let's come in and talk to Scott about it. And talk to Scooter about it, sorry. And we all got together, and I came to Scooter's house one morning and told him the story and said, what do you think? Can we make a show out of this? And I'll hand it over to Scooter on how that went.
Yeah, Scooter.
I said no.
Yeah.
And I asked him to leave my house. No, it's, should I continue? It's your show. I want to make sure it's cool.
I'm curious what was Walter's pitch? And what were your questions about this? Because it is we'll get into it more, but it's a pretty extreme story.
So it wasn't really a pitch. He kind of walked in my house with Scott, and it was more Scott who works with us, who was doing the pitching. He was more telling me about who Walter was. And immediately I started to think, I don't want to do this show because if we do it wrong, this guy is going to erase me. So I was kind of against it at first, and they convinced me, okay, let's do this. And we were just really getting going in the TV world at our company. We're known for music and especially signing people who get in trouble. That's a joke for anyone who actually knows what I do for a living. So no, no, it's fine.
Just saying. That's what I was going to say.
So what
Just saying.
honestly happened is we started talking about it, and Scott and Danny in our company really started to run with it. And I had a relationship through a couple friends who were in the Fast and Furious movies with Justin Lin, and reached out to Justin Lin's company about possibly being involved in directing a pilot. This is a guy who did all the Fast and Furious movies, and he's doing, the next Bourne installment, and he does $200 million films. And for some reason, we got lucky, and he said, "Yeah, I'm into it." And then through our agents, they connected us with Kurtzman and Orsi, who are incredible producers who, unfortunately for them, are going to head-to-head with us with Sleepy Hollow, and we are winning right now. And look, Robert Patrick is such a badass that when I say we're winning right now, he just kind of looks at me and goes like this, and you just feel good about yourself. But it's been kind of an incredible adventure. We've made this kind of dream team of people involved, and I was telling you earlier, it happened so fast with CBS that when we actually had our sit-down, our first read-through, it was like 3 days later that we had to shoot the first episode, shoot the pilot. And we had a meeting, I remember, where, for anyone who actually saw the show on CBS, we have a plane in the pilot flying over a Ferrari that's racing down the runway, and it's all about to crash and go wrong. And Justin had to put that entire sequence together in a matter of like 2 weeks with CGI and all these different things, and he just looked at us and he was like, "I got it." And then my boyhood dream happened, and Robert Patrick signed on. And for anybody who has seen Robert Patrick over the years, I felt like such a cool guy in that moment, where I got to show people Robert Patrick is in a TV show that I'm a part of. And it turns out he's just the nicest guy in the entire world, and we have a lot of fun. So pretty blessed and having a good time with it.
Before I go to Robert, I want to circle back to you to find out, did you see this as a show based on someone's life and actually using Walter's name and using the name of his company from the beginning? Or did you think, you know what, that's the inspiration, yeah, we'll fictionalize it in all, the following ways?
The way it started, actually, you're right. I thought, okay, let's kind of take this story based on this guy's life and build from there. And Walter was very adamant about keeping the Scorpion name, because I like to call him the real Professor X. He's gathering the great minds all around the world. And he said to me, "Look, I understand," because I was thinking, you want to appeal to all people, and maybe a show called Scorpion, some people aren't going to think it's for them. And he said, "Look, our company is actually called Scorpion, and you can make a TV show, or you can make a TV show that could really help people." And I think, you hear it's a show about geniuses, but really it's a show about, which all of us can relate to, it's a show about trying to find out where you fit in, and finding a community that you can feel like you belong. And I think the show has a lot of heart in that respect. And by keeping the company's real name and keeping it Walter O'Brien, we were in the car reading through these emails just now of all these people who have been looking for that place where they can finally fit in, and they're finding Walter and his team. And in that way, we're doing something for the greater good, which is pretty cool.
Because they're relating to the characters that they're seeing on that, on kind of that, the nerd super team on the show?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's striking a chord with them that the show is as much about EQ or more than it is about IQ. And, one of the emails I got was very powerful. It was he said the speech that was at the end of the pilot, which said, "Ignore any sentence that begins with the word normally. And if you have trouble finding friends and fitting in, it's not you. It's just that you're rare."
This is a speech that your character says at the end of that pilot.
The character says in the show. And this email was saying this gentleman was 59. He says his entire life would have been different if someone had said that to him when he was 9. Wow.
Okay, Robert. Nice guy, badass, hybrid combination. I'm curious, what did you think when you read the script? What struck you about the story? Did you think it was fictional? Did you think it was nonfiction?
Well, when it was sent to me, it was sent as a package of who all was involved at the time, and I looked at it and realized quickly that it was based on the life of Walter O'Brien. So as I was reading the project and thinking about it, and Robert Orsi and Scooter and Kurtzman and Nick Santora and you know, just Les Moonves and Nina Tasser and all these people that were involved. Then you're reading this rich story about how his life, we all became aware of him breaking into NASA and so forth. It was a really, you know, it was a great read. It was a great script, and the whole project just really made sense to me. And when I was finished with it, and I called my manager and said, man, there's no downside to this project. It's entertaining, it's exciting, it's something that I think that, you know, I try to drill into my kids that there's a solution to every problem. We just have to think about it and figure it out. I think the story that both these gentlemen touched on, that you know, of belonging, and if you don't feel like you belong, there's other people out there like you. I mean, we've all, you know, gone through our periods of isolation and feeling like we have nowhere to be a part of. The paternal relationship that I have with
Yeah, tell us about your character. I didn't set that up
Walter.
before.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just assuming everybody's seen the show. I play a federal agent that becomes aware of a hacker named Scorpion that's hacked into NASA, and he's when we discover him, we find out that he's a 10-year-old boy, and this real guy sitting to my right, and we become very intrigued with him and how he can be utilized and how the United States government can benefit from him and take him in and make him an asset of the government and put him to use solving problems. I guess I can talk about, after several years, our relationship, my character has him learning how, coming up with a tracking system to drop packages to refugees. And some of my superiors use it in a different way, and it's actually, we use ordnance. Ordnance is dropped with the packages, and thousands of people are killed. And this causes a big rift between us. Now, whether or not that happened in real life, you'd have to ask Walter O'Brien. But that's where we meet our characters at the start.
Right.
And I've now been following him, and I come back to him and say, hey, we have a problem at LAX, and you're the only man that I think that can come up with a solution. Let's put whatever happened in the past with us in the past and move forward and try to save people. And if you don't, you know, what is it, 20,000 people are going to die or something like that?
That's the right number.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where that's the pilot.
Right.
And that's the great thing about the relationship. I was saying to Scooter, it's kind of like Scooter's relationship with some of his clients and what he does in real life. I see myself as the Colonel, Tom Parker, dealing with Elvis Presley. And I've got to give Elvis enough room to do his magic,
right,
and not let people interfere with him. But I got to keep Elvis on the track and then moving in the right direction. So that's how I approach that character.
All right, so Elvis, you have to ask when you hear these stories, so how much of that is true? The story of you know, being a 10-year-old hacker and being kind of, you know, developing a product or software for one use and it being used for something else?
I was 13, not 10. Yeah, no, I was hacking at 13. I hacked a lot more at 16 at different banks. I had developed software for peaceful purposes as image recognition and autonomous vehicle systems. And software
For the government?
For the government and a private contracting group underneath the government. And then the whole thing, the project I was on, got scrapped. And the software got reused without my permission in the Gulf War, and 2,600 casualties for civilians because it was built for speed over accuracy. And I took that pretty hard. I took that seriously. That's even though I was tricked, it's still partially my fault.
Right. How so? How did, I mean, that's enormous. How did that affect you?
Well, I didn't talk to anyone for about 18 months. I became scared of my own abilities. I figured if I didn't say anything to anyone, then I couldn't hurt anyone anymore. Then I realized that's not really a long-term solution. So one of the things that was born out of that is, well, what if I helped more people than I hurt? And that's where, being a bit of an engineer, my logic kicked in and came up with a fairness algorithm to say, what if I started quantifying goodness and figuring out how much good I can do? to outcome any consequences or bad consequences I've had. And I've been balancing that fairness algorithm ever since. I think now I'm in the black.
By the way, when you watch Scorpion at home, the new drinking game is whenever you hear the word algorithm, you do a shot. That's you can remember that when you watch the show.
You won't remember the show when you're done with the show.
It makes it that much better.
I love it. A show that makes algorithm like a regular part of the lexicon of TV watchers. That's awesome. Walter, how did your desire to make up for what had happened when you were a teenager? How did that desire turn into a company? What were you doing?
It wasn't a grand strategy. I mean, what happened was it started kind of like Geek Squad. People just called me in to fix computers and printers and drivers and bad floppy disks. And I'm dating myself now, but installing DOS 2.0 and putting in Stacker and stuff like that.
It's pre-Geek Squad.
Pre-Geek Squad,
Right.
absolutely. But then the problems got bigger, and I got into localization, globalization, working with companies like Oracle, IBM, Lotus, supply chain optimization, ERP systems, really boring plumber stuff, but big companies needed it and depended on it for millions of dollars. And what I realized is I was very good at seeing and quantifying risk and trying to eliminate it. So when you have systems that require 99.9999% uptime, that's very hard to do. You're fighting acts of God at that point, tornadoes and power cuts and chemical spills and stuff like that. And I was very good at thinking of all the different scenarios that could happen and planning for them, and then writing systems and automation and robots that would either simulate those things happening or stop those things happening. And the company grew over the years just for mitigating risk and trying to eliminate what we call human error that is about 3% for a working professional. And some people can't afford 3% anymore.
And it really evolved into this broader kind of problem-solving set of services, right?
Right. Well, it took us a while, but we evolved from solving certain issues to saying we'll solve any technical problem, because at some point we knew the majority of technologies out there, or we could learn them very quickly. And then we pivoted a little bit because our clients started asking us to solve problems that weren't technical. They were just problems. But
Like
we would
what?
solve them in a technical way.
Okay.
Handle my divorce, put a Shark Tank in my office, build a casino overseas, choose winning racehorses based on their DNA. Whatever the puzzles came up were. So we opened up a new company, a new brand called conciergeup.com, where you can type in any funded wish, and a bunch of really smart folks will be assigned to figuring it out for you. So we went from hacking systems to hacking lives.
Right.
And it works surprisingly well. The discipline around how you attach or how you attack a software problem, which involves turning ambiguity into absolute, actually applies to every problem.
Right. I want to actually play another clip from the show because I want to. What struck me about the show is the way that you see real-time problem solving, and like that is the action. Is to see it's like Sherlock Holmes solving problems out loud. Can we cue up that clip?
Just get to that airfield and don't make me regret this. We're almost there. Toby, did you find a passenger on one of those planes with an active phone?
Sylvester, I need more passenger names.
Bell software technology is too old to do any of this in 5 minutes. And even if someone's phone was on, how do we get in touch with them at 36,000 feet?
Old technology. That's it. We find someone with an out-of-date analog phone.
The receivers are 10 times stronger than smartphones. They can get a signal up there.
All right, we lose anyone under 50. Can't make over 6 figures. Can't work for a tech company. Salesmen. Salesmen never turn off their phones. They risk losing business. And Gordon Tooley, plastic salesman from Reseda, returning from a work trip. Services linked to a Rectron 864 analog.
Call him. Hello?
Mr. Tooley, listen carefully. This is Homeland Security. There's an emergency on your flight. We need your help.
Nice try, Sully. I'll see you at work, you putz.
Yeah, this isn't Sully, because Sully wouldn't know that right now outside of your window are the Santa Monica Mountains.
And right above them are 2 F-22s ready to shoot you out of the sky. So I need you to get off
Your ass, grab a flight attendant and tell them to get your phone to the pilot.
This is Captain Pike, standing by.
Okay, so I'm so curious, like, about the making of each episode and how you're consulted, how your stories are turned into plots for episodes, or your solutions are turned into little plot points. When you watch anything in that scene that you had a hand in.
Yeah, well, solving the problem of when they said, well, how can we reach the plane?
Right.
And I said, well, it's true. Sometimes when we're out in the desert testing, we have to use old Nokia analog phones because the only thing that'll pick up a signal.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that those old phones have a stronger signal. They're bigger and heavier with more hardware.
Right.
So we picked up on that. Another part of the show is how do you get information off an airplane when the airplane can't land? So originally my idea was, well, drive under it, match the speed, because a plane will not stall at almost 200. Ferrari will do 200 and connect wirelessly. Now, I wasn't there that day, so Justin Lin thought wired is a little more exciting than wirelessly. And I'm glad he did, because he was right. So, I mean, there's certain liberties taken with the show, but the logic behind it is valid. And, you know, it's the process has been wonderful. I meet with the writers every couple of weeks, do a brain dump of the real stories that we've done. They take it all as Lego pieces, going, oh, that's a cool widget, that's a cool solution. Let's change the city. Let's change which character did it. Let's mash it together. And then they come back to me with a script full of AWs, which is Ask Walter. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, how do you hack into a Ferrari? How do you get off a roof? How can you get out of prison if you're in prison in a smart way? How do you mute a bomb without waiting for a countdown and cutting a wire? Mm-hmm. And either myself or I'd reach into the Scorpion team, call our fabricator, which is all the characters in the show are based on real guys in the company. Mm-hmm. So I would just call Happy and say, what's a cool way of muting a bomb? And we'd get a three-way going with the writers and tell them. Mm-hmm. And then the movie magic happens where it goes from that verbal discussion to me seeing it on screen going, that's cool.
Right.
So.
Scooter, one thing that I'm interested in is how when you're going to take a story of someone's life and make it work as a TV show, you do need to add these other elements. And it seemed like one that really resonated with you was the story about it's Catherine McPhee's character, the waitress, and her son. And talk a little bit about what that character does for the show and what appealed to you.
Okay, how many people in this room, by raising your hands, are geniuses according to your IQ? It's okay. We have one here. So my point is the majority of the people watching this show are watching and saying, well, I'm not a genius. How do I relate? So what we did is we gave the show heart. She starts off as a waitress that they first meet, and she has a son that you find out very quickly she thinks is slow, and it turns out he himself is a genius, and she just can't relate to him. And by having that character there, we have someone who kind of, and we say in the show, her job is to translate for Walter and his team. Mm-hmm. And what she's really doing is translating to the audience. Right. You know, with the writers, because Nick Santora called me last night, we were talking about kind of what was going to go on here, and we were talking about how Walter will go in and, like he said, dump these Lego pieces. And then their job in the writer's room is to kind of turn it into Hollywood movie magic on television. And they'll take the pieces, but they have to give them kind of that extra EQ, Walter, would you say? And give it that heart that makes it extremely relatable. And her character and the child kind of turn this bunch of misfits or a bunch of geniuses into extremely relatable family that we can all be a part of. And that is why I like the show so much. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, well, Walter and I joke around because he's like, he likes the really technical stuff. And he's like, oh, did you like how they did that? And I said, well, I love the heart at the end. And, you know, in the last episode, we see Robert kind of reach on his wallet, and you see a picture of his daughter, which is your real daughter.
Real daughter.
Yeah, he used a real picture. And you had an awesome 80s look, man. Like it was a sweet, young Robert Patrick in that picture. But I think at the end of the day, that's why people are loving the show so much, is because you learn something every show, but you're also completely enthralled and attached to these characters in a way where you root for them.
Right. Robert, it's funny. I actually think as much as Catherine McPhee's character does translate for the audience, I actually think your character it's funny because and I feel like people in this room can really relate more to your character, or relate just as much to your character, because you're managing a group of really smart techies who you're trying to get the most out of, who really want to break the rules, and you want to allow them to do that without getting in trouble. Talk a little bit about how you see it.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the character, and for those of you out there that have to do that, I empathize with you. It's a lot like that with the actors on the set. You want to allow someone to really think freely and do what they do, because that's what's so special and extraordinary, and that's what you're expecting of them. But you've kind of got to keep them going in the right track. And I'm sure, if anybody was trying to manage this guy right now, I mean, it would be a difficult thing. I mean, you've got to. It's almost. I keep going back to that paternal thing. You've got to be patient. Listen to what they've got to do. Make a judgment call. Is this the right thing I should allow them to do? Am I going to bend the rules? No, we shouldn't do that. How do you know what I mean? It's management. So I'm learning a lot, and it's actually helping me relate with my children. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, and you want to give your own kids the chance to fail, because everybody needs to fail. That's the only way you're going to succeed. And I kind of approach it from that point of view, that you've got to allow them to make mistakes, and hopefully they don't get hurt, and you can keep them going in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Is there anybody out there? It's getting a little thin out there tonight.
Walter.
All right. Appreciate that.
They're
Thank
here,
you for the
they're here.
encouragement.
So Walter, there are ulterior motives with this show, with your doing the show. As we mentioned at the top, you want to solve the business problem, you want to attract more people to your company, you want to promote what your company does so people will come and seek out the services. But there's another one that you talked about before about kind of championing intelligence. Talk a little bit about that longer effect that you're hoping it could have.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the show is a celebration of intelligence rather than most of society and shows tend to be making fun of intelligence. I think, the nerd geek viewpoint has gotten better over the years, and I think certainly since we're sitting in the middle of Silicon Valley, here, I think folks, when they look at people who are they'd refer to as nerds or geeks, it's a good thing. They have a good living, they make money, they're stable people, they're nice people usually. But people only start thinking that way maybe when they're 25 or older. When you're kids in high school, if you're not the quarterback or the head of the basketball team, you're not the coolest kid in school. And that is something I'd like to change. I'd like to have, just like kids who are changing their majors to chemistry or biology because they've been watching CSI for 10 years, 3 or 4 years from now, I'd love to see those same kids start changing their majors to artificial intelligence and computer science, because we made it look cool, and we made cool acceptable.
Scooter, did that idea, did that resonate with you early on? Was that a motivation for doing the show, or did you just think it's just a cool idea?
Well, look, I don't know what he was like when he was younger, but he's so cool. So when he walked in my house.
Wait, so he's cool and he's cool.
Have you seen the ponytail? This man is cool. So, look, I just like to wake up in the morning and say what cool stuff we can do at our company, and the idea of this ridiculously wild story he told me about his life when he walked in, it was so incredible that the idea of being a part of it and getting to tell it as a story was exciting in itself. I think that being smart is becoming sexy. And I think that we are blessed to have another show in front of us called Big Bang Theory that is about a group of geniuses before us. And that's a great show that is one of the best shows on television. And it's because this generation is finding out, thanks to a lot of the things that you guys do in this room and the people in this area of the world, have made it cool to be smart.
Right.
And when kids are growing up now, I think they are looking, and Walter's one of the people who are changing even more so. They're looking and saying, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make it to the NBA. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the NFL. But if I really apply myself, I have a chance of being extremely successful in a different way. And I think that is something that's really, really great. And I think the fact that kids can now watch our show and say, if I really apply myself and I'm very intelligent, one day I will drive a Ferrari underneath an airplane and I will save LAX.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Clearly, it's not about survival of the fittest anymore.
Right, right. All right, I want to end by showing some of this intelligence in action. Can we show that other clip?
It's around to 15 countries. We hit a wall.
Agent Gallo said that you and your team were brilliant, and you could find out who sent it.
All right. All of your devices are on the same home network?
Yeah.
Any other computer have this virus?
No.
Okay, so he directed the virus to just Helena's computer. Anybody else in the house sick?
No.
You, your wife, and your staff, they've all been in your proximity.
Yes, what are you getting at?
Well, he could have taken out the whole home network, but he directed the computer virus at just your child. I don't think it's a coincidence that no one else but Ellen is ill.
Wait, what does this mean?
Give the girl some cool air. She's hot enough. You can't catch it. None of us can. The virus he placed on the computer is custom built. He did the same with your daughter. Or why is no one else ill?
You're saying he custom built a virus that would make just this child sick?
Yeah, there's computer hacking, and more recently, there's biohacking. Now, whoever infected the computer also infected your daughter. Until we find that person and know exactly what biological agent he used, there's not gonna be any hope for a cure. So
Wait, where are you going? You can't just drop a theory like that and leave.
Governor, the helplessness you feel will incline you to irrational behavior. So please resist the temptation to do anything stupid like standing in my way. Let me do my job.
Monday nights at 9 o'clock on CBS.
Whoa, nice. Do you know who that little actress girl was in the tent? Do you know who she is? It's Bruce Springsteen's niece.
So what we're trying to tell you is the boss is associated to our show. So you should watch Monday nights, 9 o'clock on CBS.
I keep waiting for you to drop the mic, man. That was it. That was the moment. All right.
Boom.
Hey, thanks so much, Robert, Walter, Scooter. Thanks so much for coming in. Scorpion, you heard it here.